We're back on Boston Center of the Chat. George Balekji, Kasey Hudson, and the Andy Brickley now with us in the studio. You know to catch them every Bruins game right here on NESN. Brick, appreciate you waking up and taking the time. How we doing, my friend?
I'm doing great. Even though the Bruins are not in the postseason in the National Hockey League, I'm still enjoying hockey and still enjoying the playoffs.
Hey, I like the beard. It's coming in very fine,
just
my
laziness.
friend.
You know, you got to shave just about every day during the winter.
The summer vibes. How's the offseason treating you so far?
It's been great. It's been great. I've done a little traveling, and I plan on doing some more. I know that the people that work during the week, the weekends have been lousy in terms of the weather, and it's going to be that way again this weekend. But, you know, and I've actually watched the Celtics series against the Knicks because it's been must-see TV.
Yeah. You think they come back?
I do. They have the capability to win Game 6.
They got that heart, too. Yeah, certainly. It's one game at a time for them.
Yeah.
Let's shift the view to the Bruins. You mentioned it. Wish they were playing right now, but they're not. But everything is now, what are they doing to retool this roster and build back that culture? Big question is the captaincy. Who will be the guy that wears the C on the sweater? We had great combos with Judd and Sophia about who they see as leaders that are in that locker room, in that dressing room. Who in your eyes will step up, be a leader, and whether they wear that C or not?
Well, I want it to be Charlie McAvoy. That is my choice. I really appreciated what David Pastrnak did, especially after the trade deadline this past year when the room got kind of splintered. You know, that's what happens when you lose, and you lose consistently. And a lot of that leadership walked out the door. That void that was in that room was evident. Not in there, not there on a daily basis. I'm not experiencing it. But I know from past experience in my life and the teams that I played for teams that lost a lot at times early in my career, and I know that what that room can be. So, yeah, they need to reestablish. Well, first they need to hire a head coach, but secondly, use that word culture. They need to reestablish that leadership and that culture in that room that was the envy of the league for the past 2 decades. That needs to be resurrected, and I think the best choice, and it's upon the individual, Charlie McAvoy, to mature. I mean, he's a great kid. He's a great player. He's getting paid to be a great player. He had to deal with injury this past year. But my expectation at the beginning of last season was that he would mature into that leader. You know, he's going to come right in behind Brad Marchand as the captain of the Boston Bruins, and then it would become his room. It didn't happen for a variety of reasons. That has to happen, I believe, given the current roster. It has to be Charlie McAvoy as my captain.
You mentioned, and I love the fact that you go with McAvoy, you mentioned the coach obviously is going to make an impact as to how things move forward, but if it's one of these guys getting their first NHL breath as a head coach, you know, is that going to change who the more viable candidate is to be the leader in that locker room? I'm
not sure. You know, we heard Donnie talk, and he laid out kind of the characteristics that he looks for and what he values when he starts thinking about the next coach, and there's a lot of possibilities in the mix, even though other players, I mean, other coaches, established coaches, have gotten jobs as we're sitting on the sidelines here waiting for the Bruins to make up their mind or their decision. My preference is a guy that has been a head coach, whether it's in the American League or the National Hockey League. You know, when you evaluate whether a guy is a quality NHL coach, he can be great with X's and O's. He might be great with his message and how he delivers that message, but you've got to command the room. That is the most important aspect to have in hockey, in the room, is that you command that room. You know, you're not a wallflower. You're not getting along with everybody. You don't have to be that way. You have to command that room, and I think that's the most important aspect of the next guy that gets this gig.
We've heard a lot of names, you know, be floated as rumored connections. Marco Sturm, Misha Donskov. In the qualities of head coach, you mentioned commanding the room and not all X's and O's, but what in your mind would make the right head coach? If you're building one in this situation with a young roster now, a lot of draft picks, but still a lot of leaders that can help them figure out that room and lead it too.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is when you look at the candidates, and if you're following the path that I'm laying out as far as having been a head coach at any professional level, that is there an evolvement? You know, has he understood today's athlete? Has he made adjustments in the way he messages and the way he deals with individuals on an individual basis, player by player? If he has evolved as a coach, a lot of guys that get second kicks at the can have a lot of success because of what they learned in the first go-round. So that's something I'd be looking for as well, if that's the direction you want to go.
You mentioned culture, and that's going to be crucial to be established as they continue to move forward? What are some of the key characteristics that you would like to see be either a reestablished culture or a reinvented culture for this Bruins locker room?
Yeah, everybody matters, I think, is the message. You know, whether you play 5 minutes a game or you play 30 minutes a game, you matter. It's the ultimate team sport. Everybody has a role. You have to establish those roles. You want players that relish those roles, accept those roles, want to excel in those roles. And I think that's the message that has to come from the leadership group. If that is there, that everybody matters, everybody on the roster has an impact that impacts the game, no matter what their responsibilities are, I think that's the beginning of a real solid culture in your room.
Do you think we're getting away from that a little bit as the game is changing? Young guys are having more, I don't know, pressure on their shoulder, expectation on their shoulder. We have like 50-something NHL debuts in the past 60 days.
Yeah, and there's a lot of branding going on. You know, players want their individual brand. I understand that, but I don't put hockey in that category. I still think I think the teams that win, the teams that consistently compete, the elite teams, they have that there's no individualism. You know, you're allowed to be creative and do what you do best on the ice, and the more skilled guys get a little bit more rope in order to make mistakes because you can recover, plus they create so much more. No, I don't think today's athlete in hockey, I mentioned earlier what happened in the room last year. You know, some really good people left. You know, not just your captain and Brad Marchand, but Brandon Coyle, quality guy, Charlie Coyle, quality guy. And when those guys go out of the room and now you get younger, inexperienced players coming in, they're fighting for an NHL job, and you had a couple of free agents that you signed in the previous offseason that haven't had good enough seasons to have their voice resonate as part of the new leadership group. That's going to have to happen in this training camp. Their training camp was poor. You know, Donnie Sweeney and Cam both admitted that they wish they had, you know, maybe had an opportunity to change the way camp went, not only for individuals, but as a group in entirety. It cost the coach's job early in the year, the first 20 games. So, yeah, I think that there is an opportunity. There's a chance to turn this thing around. A lot of ifs got to hit if you think this is going to be a quick rebuild or a retool, however you want to phrase it. But again, head coach, culture in the room, before we even start talking about the holes in the lineup, they have to be addressed as well.
I want to go right there. So there's the coach, there's the culture, the holes in this lineup. They have the 7th overall pick, likely go center there. There's a lot of centers in this draft. Maybe they go winger, let's see.
Yeah.
But when you look at the holes in this lineup, what are the ones that need to be the priority?
Yeah. You know, a top 6 forward.
Yeah.
For me, that's number one. Would I love it to be a centerman? Would I like it to be a 1A, a 1C or a 2C? Absolutely. You know, you hear like Sam Bennett's name out there as an unrestricted.
Is it illegal for him to come here?
Hey, Marchand went to Florida, Bennett can come here.
Yeah, right? If you're winning hockey, you're winning hockey.
Yeah, no, and he checks a lot of boxes the way he plays. You know, ultimate competitor, can be physical, can cross the line at times, but he's talented. And he's good. He's good in the room. He's a good leader. That's his reputation. I mean, I'm not here to talk about individuals. We'll talk about they need a top 6 forward. Whether it's a centerman, difficult to get, or whether it's a winger, I'm okay with it. But he's got to be top 6 talent. And I think that allows you to do a little bit more in terms of mixing and matching with what you consider your top 5 right now. You got to complete that top 6. They didn't have it at all last year. I know Morgan Geekie came and played really well, and he deserves to be paid, and he deserves to be part of the Bruins moving forward. But they need to complete that top 6. You still need 4 lines. I mean, the best teams in the league have 3 really good lines.
Oh, yeah.
If you got 4, then, you know, you're going for a cup. But so I start right there. Top 6 forward, and I'm telling you, a lot of people don't talk about, but I still think they need a top 4 defenseman.
Yeah.
You know, when you shorten your bench to 4D, sometimes even 3D, you know, you got to have 3 studs back there. So you need good help from McAvoy, you need good help from Lindholm. I would take another defenseman. You know, I mean, Brandon Coyle was a good top 4 because he was stay-at-home, right-shot defenseman, good defender. That's a nice number 4 to have on a quality team. But I'm looking for like a top 3. If you go back and look at some of the greatest Stanley Cup champions that won multiple times, they had a top 3 when it came to their defensemen when they shortened the bench. I'd like to see the Bruins address that area as well.
Would that affect Mason Leroy and Nikita Zadorov more in your eyes, or you just like to get deeper?
I think it's helpful to both those guys.
Yeah.
You know, less is more in this case because they were put in situations where it was not a good matchup for them. There was too much responsibility on their shoulders for where they are as players in this league. They're good players. They have a certain skill set that helps you win a lot of games, but they were asked to do way too much in the second half of the year. And it wasn't the formula for success.
I love getting a chance to chat with you. So does this mean that you would flirt with the idea of an Ekblad coming here, right shot defenseman?
What's with the Panthers?
It's the people
I'm
on
joking.
the market.
Hey, it's winning. It's
Don't
good
do that
players.
to me, because everybody already thinks that I'm all Florida all the way, and I'm trying to do better with the Boston love. So
I mean, he'd fit the top 4, no doubt.
Yeah.
Where is he in his career? Is he on the back 9? I mean, I'm looking to build. I'm looking to build for the future. I'm looking for somebody that's at least on, hole 7 or hole 8, not on hole 15. So, good player. He helps Florida win. He's a good leader. Has been for a long time. First pick overall. I mean, he's got the resume, but I'm looking for a different kind of player.
do you want a true stay-at-home defenseman or an offensive
No, I want a
defenseman
guy
like
that can move the puck.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the Bruins had a difficult time getting easy exits out of their defensive zone because of the lack of skill and experience on the back end.
Right.
That was a problem. You got to get easy exits because so many teams, like you watch the teams that are getting close to conference finals. Carolina qualifies. What do they play? Relentless hockey. That pucks. They play the rim game in the offensive zone. They put pucks at nets. Their back pressure is all based on a fast skating game. So you got to have guys that can get to pucks, make plays, get out of your own zone, and ease the pressure. And that's what I'm looking for in that top 3D.
Yeah, and I think a big thing too is, look, you mentioned the health. It was Hampus Lindholm. Also, Elias Lindholm dealt with an issue before they even got into the regular season. Yeah. If he's healthy, that's important. If you look at this team down the middle, how would you like to order the centers? And maybe is there also an addition in that with Lindholm, Zacha, and Middlestat?
Yeah. We just talked about if you're going to round out your top 6, if you can get a centerman, that would be ideal because then Zacha slides to the wing.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yep.
I like that concept.
Yeah.
I expect Lindholm, Elias, to be a much better player next year. I like him as a player. I like his compete. I think he cares. Even though he may carry himself a certain way that people question whether he cares, I don't. I see him every day. I travel with him. I see him in the hotel. I see him at practice. I see him at morning skates. He cares, and he's a good player. He just didn't live up to the contract, and that's to be expected. Guys that sign at noontime on July 1, they get too many years and they get too much money. It's a fact.
Yeah.
It's the price of doing business.
Yeah.
And you knew that going in. So even though you wanted 80 to 90 points from the guy based on the money that he was making, it's more realistic to look at about a 70-point season for him.
Yeah.
And be a 3-zone quality centerman that you can rely on in every situation. That's my expectation for him next year, and I think it's his own expectation.
Yeah.
So I'm counting him as, inside my top 2 as far as my top 2 centermen. If I can't get a centerman, whether it's through a trade, through free agency, then I have to think about Zacha being, my other centerman in the top 2. I think Middlestat, if he's going to be with the Bruins moving forward, if he's going to be an impactful player, he needs a winger that has been in the NHL for a while, that understands how to play offensive hockey in the NHL. He was playing with wingers that were just inexperienced guys, and he's trying to play a certain way. He has limitations in his game, but he also has a good skill set at moving the puck. So if he plays with a good goal-scoring winger that knows the art of the give and go, I think Middlestat becomes a far more effective player. And if he's your 3C, you might get some good mismatches.
Love that. Real quick, we asked Judd about it. How was his first year? How would you assess it?
Judd,
you're with him in the booth.
Judd was awesome. A lot of people were probably concerned about, the transition from Jack to Judd. But, Judd and I have known each other for a long time, even though we weren't very friendly. He was in Chicago. I was here in Boston, but we did work together in the old IHL when I did some TV games, for the Wolves, in fact, through some mutual friends that put it together. So I had a history with Judd, and because he had done radio for 8 years, we worked together for 8 years, traveling on the same plane in the hotels, socializing, talking hockey. So the transition was really based on I needed to learn his cadence. It was different than Jack's. Jack was unique. Jack was special. And there was an emotional bond between me and Jack. But because I had a history with Judd, I thought it was going to be seamless, and I think it was. I think Judd calls a terrific game. He's so prepared. He's so professional. And he's willing to let me do my job within the context of the broadcast, but still have some hockey conversation tied within the game as we're calling it, because you know how fast the sport is. It's tough to do. It's tough to do.
Well, you guys, from you guys,
You guys are awesome together. And like you said about Elias Lindholm, Judd cares. You care.
Yeah.
That's what makes it a great broadcast. We're so happy that we have you guys in the booth. I know all of Boston loves you guys as well.